Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Lee, Senior Back Engineer from Development Analytics Group. Today, I'd like to do a quick demo of how I was able to write a triage policy file with the help of GitLab Duo Workflow. So if you're like me, who was recently impacted by a company reorg, you're probably looking at going through all of your issues, MRs, epics to update all of the labels to reflect either your new group name or if you have any team structure changes, you need to probably update your stage name, for example, or section. So the label migration, I think it's going to be a pretty tedious process, especially if the number of resources that is impacted is going to be huge. You can definitely do the process manually if you only have a few resources to look at, but I strongly recommend automating this process, both for the purpose of making this process as streamlined as possible, and as well as you have a record of what was changed, because our automation tooling usually have a logging that can show you what was done during this migration, so you have a future reference. For this purpose, the tooling that we usually pick to do that is called GitLab-triage. If you are not familiar with this gem, this is a great product that can do bulk resource update. So exactly like what I described, we wanted to migrate labels for a number of resources. This is the gem that can help us do that. You could also do a lot of other things like posting comments, changing like the assignee, due dates. So, oh, and also the team's weekly triage report is also created by this gem. So it's very powerful. It has a lot of capabilities. And we needed to communicate to the gem through something called a policy file. Um, Let me show you example. So here is one example of what I mean by policy file. It's just a set of instructions written in YAML files that basically describes to the gem what we wanted to achieve in this automation. So here in this example, we're targeting resources that's currently labeled with group threat insights, DevOps software supply chain security. So as long as and also it needs to be open to resource. So it needs to match all of these conditions for the automation to apply the action against. And we're saying that the action that we're going to apply to them is that we wanted to label them with this new DevOps security risk management stage label. So it's this is everything that we wanted to perform in this automation. So we have to describe this exactly the way it is to the GitLab gem. And you have to use the right condition field names. Like you need to basically know the API of the GitLab triage gem. So if you're not familiar with YAML syntaxes or not familiar with this triage API, you might have to look for some help writing this policy file. And this is where I think GitLab Duo Workflow can be very helpful because you no longer have to learn about the particular syntax. You can just focus on writing the accurate prompt to describe to the Duo Workflow what you would like to achieve. So I have written an example in the README. Um, in this example, I would like to change the stage name for resources labeled with group authentication. Add a DevOps software supply chain security label to the resources that match this condition. So this was actually from one of the recent reorg migrations. And after some experiments, this was the prompt that I ended up using. So there are three parts to it. I described what is the policy file name, what's the condition and action. I also told it that I needed to create two jobs in my merge request pipeline so that I can test and execute my migration when ready. And finally, it's almost like a pointer to the GitLab Duo workflow that if it needs help understanding the syntax, it can look at this folder, which is a folder that I have created, added to the project that has some historical migration files and also some guidance to sort of listing out what are the options it can actually pick from to achieve some of the conditions. So it has a lot of useful information for Duo Workflow to sort of process and analyze how to plan this composition. And if you come to take a look at the execution history of that particular workflow, so this is the prompt that I just showed you. You see that it was able to indicate all of the steps it has taken. Like it went through these files I have suggested to sort of look up the syntax, came up with a plan through some analysis, and finally the end result is this file. It was able to create exactly what I have described. I wanted to target open resources labeled with group authentication that doesn't have the software supply chain security label. If you already have the label, then you don't have to reapply it. That's the purpose of this condition. And the final outcome of the automation is we hope to apply this new label to the resources that match that condition. So it has all of the rights, condition field names, action field names, and it's looking through all of the resource types. Exactly what I would have written myself. So it didn't make any mistake syntactically. Sometimes the formatting could use some attention. So I noticed like once a while it's not able to give me like an empty line at the end of the YAML file. This is one of the linter rules. You have to have a YAML, empty file at the end of all of your YAML files in order to pass that linter check. So you have to pay attention here, but it's a pretty easy fix. So this is the first draft. It looks great, coming from that first prompt that I had. Optionally, if you wanted to refine the policy, like for example, you suddenly realized, oh, I don't want it to apply this migration if my issues already has the workflow completed label. So then you could optionally give this second prompt to refine that. So you can say that you can update the policy you created here by adding a new condition to skip the resource currently labeled with workflow completed. And the end result was it added this extra forbidden label field or value. So it's, in addition to what we had before, it created this new workflow completed condition. So yeah, it was the result of the two prompts I showed you that, and then it finally, it gave me this very accurate triage policy, which I can then post to a merge request with that code change. And because in the prompt, I have added some instruction about creating CI jobs. You see that it also helped me create these two jobs in my pipeline. And then the purpose of this dry run is that I can, before executing the actual migration automation in production, I wanted to do a quick pass of my logic to make sure it's targeting the right resources with the correct action. So then I have a chance to modify in case the triage policy has an error in it. Once that dry run looks right to me, and then I can come back and then just click run for the actual migration job. So this will be the end-to-end process of how you will be able to write a triage policy file with the help of GitLab Duo Workflow to help your team migrate labels for your resources. I hope the demo was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ping me or my team. Thank you for watching.